The first time he came to the parish, okay. It had to be about 1955 because I remember when the parish became a parish. I remember when the parish was a mission parish. And it had a choir, had a men's choir. They did fine stuff, they really did. There was a different director. I was not the director. Basically how I got involved was my husband decided shortly after we were married to join the choir. I thought he was just lonely on Thursday nights because I was still in New York from Monday to Thursdays. I was working on an advanced degree and I was concertizing. Finally, I had gotten an agent, and I was in New York from Monday until normally Friday. But he decided to bring me home on Thursday night because there was choir practice and they needed an accompanist, if you can imagine. Which was fine. I mean, I didn't mind that. That was sort of fun. I mean, and the guys in the choir were just great. I mean, they were lots of fun, and they wanted to be there, and they enjoyed being there, and they enjoyed doing what they were doing. This went on for quite a while, except when it got to the holidays. All of a sudden, the director disappeared on Christmas and on Easter. Getting involved with the choir, I realized, they were a chant choir. Latin chant. I had not had a lot of Latin chant. I was a convert from the Lutheran Church. Decided I should take some Latin chant classes. Learned chant, learned it pretty well. Came back here and taught the chant to the guys, improved the quality of the chant that they were doing. Little did I realize that later on there would not be chant. In 1964, there was a dramatic change for any music director, parish music director in the Catholic Church. 1964, first Sunday in Advent, the altar was turned around. In our case, our altar was attached to the back wall, so we brought in a wooden altar and set it up. Choirs were referred to in the instructions as to aid the participation of the congregation. They were not to have the character of being solo choirs anymore. And as I say, many choirs were disbanding. They really they were very, very discouraged. There wasn't enough for them to do. They had lost character. Infants choir kept going. And I can honestly say that from the time that I came here in 1955 to the present day, we have never been without a choir. I thought it was sort of an exciting time for the church because we were going into English. Now, we had very, very little music. Very, very little music had been published in English the congregation could use. And participation aid we did not have. So we made up one. We came up with our first parish hymnal, which had maybe about 12 hymns. But there are many times when we didn't have music for certain occasions, and I would sit down and write it. There were many rough times in the diocese that we were talking a choir into hanging in there, and things would get better, and we'd use this until some better music comes across and so forth. And we started doing sacred and secular concerts. We put on programs at Bloom High School. We rented the auditorium and did actually a sacred concert with the choir. And that developed into something a little bit later on. We did musicals. We used, for the girl parts, we used the daughters and wives of the men's choir. And women in the parish really wanted to become part of the choir. The men weren't ready for it. The men still wanted their men's choir. So we developed a women's choir about 1975. And they sang their mass, their own mass. The men's choir sang their own mass. So now we had two choirs going. Besides the cafeteria, had a contemporary group singing there. So we had about 3 groups going, music groups in the parish going, which wasn't too bad. It was a pretty good deal. Some years later, maybe about 10 years later, the men and the women's choir combined. Basically because there was some music they all wanted to do, and the men needed the women's voices and the women needed the men's voices. Now, and after that came, we decided we needed a special choir for funerals. So we developed the Resurrection Choir. We developed the Glory Singers, which was a contemporary choir, contemporary group. A little bit after that, we developed the Celebration Singers, which was another style of contemporary group that we had. And a little bit after that came the Spirit Singers, which was the teenage group, which had a sort of a chance to express itself in a mass. We have a handbell choir as well. And it's a big music program. I think the community realizes it's a very, very active parish. I think it's become a very respected part of the parish, part of the community. Within the community, the changes, I think with the younger families coming in, it's made a big difference. And I think there's a closeness in this parish that I feel. I mean, of course, I'm not out in the congregation a lot, but I can feel it in the singing and the response I get from the singing. I can feel it in the response that I get from people come up to me and just start talking about music or talking about what they liked. And I heard this piece of music. You know what this is? And they'd sing it to me, and you know, things like that. I mean, that's you know, that's wonderful. That's a wonderful feeling for music. And of course, I've always felt, you know, when things were sort of down in the diocese because of well, you know, Vatican II and so forth, I kept thinking of it as a wonderful opportunity for musicians. I kept thinking, oh, this is a great time to be part of the church. This is a great time to do these things. This is a great time to take advantage of this. I always felt very good about it. I always felt very good about what I was doing.